What's up, guys? Today we're going to be comparing the Galaxy S10e to the new Galaxy S24, and I think this is a pretty good comparison for anybody who doesn't necessarily want to upgrade to the bigger S24 Ultra and you want something that's a little bit more compact. Now, they don't make phones as small as the S10e anymore, but this is not that big of a size difference, as you can see here. I think the camera is kind of like not doing it justice, but they're almost the same height. It's really close, so it'd be like this. And as far as heaviness, yeah, you'll notice the S24 is a much heavier phone. You'll notice that right off the rip. But you can see thinness, it's a little bit thicker as well too. Now, when we get to the hardware part of this comparison, obviously the S24 is the newer looking device. It's got that matte finish that I really like. What's really cool about the S10 series in particular is that even though this phone is glossy, it still doesn't show fingerprints because of the color. Like, you have to sort of shift it into like a certain light. But this is actually really not that bad when it comes to fingerprints. It's a reason why I really like the design on this phone. But you are going to be missing a few things as far as the hardware goes. So you will be losing the headphone jack as well, and then you will be losing the SD card support that you have on the S10e. So that's something to note here. Also, with the hardware, you do have a slight difference in terms of how you actually get into the phone. So with the S10e, I really like this implementation. Basically, it uses the fingerprint scanner right here in the power button, and you're able to get in the phone. With the S24, you just use the in-display fingerprint sensor, which it's good and it feels a little bit more modern, I guess, but I still really like the S10e's method. I think it feels more natural. You don't really have to think about it. But yeah, hardware wise, they're both IP68 dust and water resistant, both glass and metal phones. Really nice looking phones, but you will be losing quite a bit, like I said, as far as hardware goes. All right, so let's talk about the displays here. So there's a noticeable difference here with the displays. So basically, you do have slimmer bezels on the S24. The punch hole is actually smaller, and it's in the middle as well now. But as far as quality wise, it's really not that big of a difference. Not how you would think. But I think aesthetically, there's like a lot like slimmer bezels, stuff like that. But yeah, there's not like a big difference as far as display quality goes. The S10e still has a pretty good panel. Even in 2024, just looking at these two side by side. Now, the big difference is going to come with the S24's 120 hertz display. So it is a much smoother panel when you're scrolling and swiping through social media or pretty much whatever. So it just feels like a faster phone just from the 120 hertz. Also, there is a 2600 nits peak brightness on the S24 as well. So in direct sunlight, it is very bright. And yeah, it's just much brighter than the S10e. So if you spend a lot of times outdoors, I'm pretty sure you will appreciate that. Now, the screen size difference here. So the S10e has a 5.8 inch display, and the S24, it does have a 6.2 inch display. So the size difference, like I said, it's like not a massive difference. I can still one hand the S24, but it's obviously going to be easier to one hand the S10e. But it's not like a stretch, so it is still way more comfortable than these bigger phones. So that's something to note. As far as these specs, S24 LTPO AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10+, 1080p, 416. The S10e, this does have the dynamic AMOLED, HDR10+, 1080p, 438 for the PPI. So two beautiful displays. Honestly, color wise, they still look really good, pretty much on par with each other. So no issues with the displays on these two phones. Like I said, the biggest difference you'll notice with these two displays is, one, the design is a little bit aesthetically more pleasing here with slimmer bezels, and also the 120 hertz and then the max brightness. Quality wise, I wouldn't say there's a massive difference. I don't think the average person would notice. Alright, so let's talk about the specs a little bit more here. So we are running Android 14, One UI 6.1 on the Galaxy S24, and then it has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. This phone will also get the 7 years of majorOS updates, and then we also have 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM on the base model. The S10e has the Snapdragon 855. Its last majorOS update was Android 12, One UI 4.1, micro SD card, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 6 gigs of RAM on the base model. As far as speed wise, I don't think the S10e is really slow at all compared to the S24. As you guys can see, it's actually still pretty snappy for the most part. Animation wise, opening applications, as you can see, it's pretty much on par with the S24. Like I said, the biggest difference you'll notice is probably with scrolling. Because you have that 120 hertz, the 60 hertz just, it's not gonna feel as smooth and fluid as the 120 hertz. I think that's the biggest thing you'll notice with speed. I can't really say for the average person, you really won't notice that much of a difference. Even animation wise, the S10e is still pretty fast for the most part. I think for games, like you will be able to get into games a little bit quicker. But like I said, you saw right there, not that big of a difference for the most part here. So performance wise, if you're going into it thinking that you're going to see like a massive improvement, there's really not a massive improvement when it comes to just general performance. The only thing you should really notice is the 120 hertz for the most part. Like the app loading and animations, it'll all look smoother because of the 120 hertz, but it's not actually that much faster. So as far as gaming, the S10e still does a fantastic job with gaming here. But I would say if you're more of a hardcore gamer, more of a competitive gamer, you will like the upgrade with the S24. It's a much more powerful phone as far as the GPU, CPU wise. But as far as like just casual gaming, you can see we're still able to play PUBG HDR Extreme smooth 60 frames on the S10e. Now the cool thing about the newer phones is that you're actually able to play at 90 frames. So like I said, if you're a competitive gamer, of course you're going to want those really fast frame rates, and you're able to get that on the S24. And I think the S24 is also just way more efficient when it comes to battery life. So I think overall the gaming experience is going to definitely be better. But like I said, you have to be somebody who's playing games competitively, because the S10e still does a fantastic job with playing Call of Duty, you know, PUBG, just whatever pretty much in the Play Store. Is still going to do a really good job. So like I said, if you're really not into games, then you really won't notice too much of a difference for the most part. Let's check out these speakers at max volume, starting with the S24. So I had to turn Dolby Atmos off. Yeah, so they sound pretty similar, but the S24 is a little bit louder, but it's like really slight. So I wouldn't say the speaker improvement is like a big speaker improvement actually. Yeah, but it is a little bit louder, so it is an improvement there, but I don't think it's massive as far as like the entire sound quality there. Now let's talk about the camera improvements here. So the S24, it does have the 50 megapixel standard 10 megapixel telephoto with 3x optical and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It now shoots in 8K 24 and 30. You also have a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. So you are getting that pretty much. The telephoto lens is the new, you know, lens that you will be getting on here. The S10e only has 2 cameras. It's got the 12 megapixel standard and a 60 megapixel ultra wide, so no telephoto lens. It shoots in 4K 60 with a 10 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. And basically the biggest difference you'll see with the cameras as far as the spec wise is that higher resolution photos as well on the S24. Check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know what you guys thought. All right, so I would definitely say this is the biggest upgrade here, and it's going to be battery life. So battery life on the S24 is almost supernatural. It is extremely good for the size of this phone. I think the chip efficiency here, and just Samsung has just gotten really good with battery life here. So it's got a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 25-watt charging on here, wireless and reverse wireless charging. The S10e has a smaller 3,100 milliamp hour battery, 15-watt charging, and then it also has the wireless and reverse wireless charging. The battery life is definitely upgrade worthy. It is a big difference. The S10e, you're probably getting like 4 hours of screen on time. The S24 can go all day very easily. It's really impressive when it comes to battery life. So that is pretty much it. I think this is a pretty decent upgrade for the most part, but like I said, you are going to be losing quite a bit here. The SD card support, the headphone jack, but you will be gaining I think a better display, a newer design, 7 years of major OS updates. I thought the cameras were pretty good as well in the S24. And as far as performance wise, I don't know. I don't really think it's a upgrade worthy. The S10e is still really fast for the most part. So it really depends on your needs and what you use your phone for. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.